Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Good evening. Treasurer Michael Ferguson has handed down his second budget with more health and education funding than ever before. For more, we're joined by state political reporter Josh Duggan. Josh, what kind of budget has the Treasurer delivered?
Kim, it's a budget that prioritises modesty over splashy spending. He's touting record sensible investment into essential services as well as cost of living relief, but no new taxes for Tasmanians. Instead, he's focusing on trimming the fat and finding efficiencies. But a looming debt bill is approaching. A budget that builds Tasmania's future. That's the sell from the Treasurer.
A future that is safe and strong and secure.
More given to health and education than ever before, 60% of the total spend.
As two health ministers and as an education minister, Jeremy has been, together with me being a science teacher, it should be no surprise.
Health gets a $12.1 billion injection over 4 years, including $115 million for the LGH. There's $87 million for Northwest Health Precincts and $96 million extra for mental health services, including new beds in the south.
Over $8 million on average every single day over the next 4 years will be spent on health.
In education, there's 125 new support positions being created by 2025 and a $300 million facility spend. $347 million will be given out in concessions to low-income Tasmanians, with another $45 million contributed to the National Energy Bill Relief Plan.
We as a state government are doing what we are able to step into the breach.
$370 million is being given to Homes Tasmania to continue their work, while $30 has been allocated for direct actions in response to the Commission of Inquiry, while $2.2 billion will be spent on the state's roads. The government's also getting the ball rolling on the AFL team. $15 million will flow to Macquarie Point this year, with $230 over the next 4 years. Utah's stadium and the training facility are both fully funded over the forward estimates, with team establishment funding as well. The entire spend in this budget is lower than the previous edition. It amounts to a deficit of $297 million, halved next year, before a projected surplus in 2025. The turnaround's fuelled by flatlining spending and an efficiency dividend for government agencies, forcing them to cut spending.
We abandoned that during the pandemic. And we're returning with a more modest efficiency dividend today.
Touting no new taxes. Instead, the cost being put on the credit card. The state's net debt is at just over $2 billion now and projected to top out at $5.6 billion by 2027. That's about $15,000 for each Tasmanian, with the debt servicing costs nearly $300 million per year.
We've had to chart a safe path through those stormy seas in a way that protects the people of our state and our businesses.
The budget papers list the biggest risk to the state's finances as the GST. It makes up more than 40% of our revenue, but it's incredibly volatile. Every 1% drop nationally is a $35 million hit to the state's coffers. The government can now spruik its financial management skills after a chaotic fortnight where it was plunged into minority.
This budget really reflects the fact that we are a disciplined government. We invest in the right areas.
Hoping to turn the tide on a rocky month. Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
The budget has received a mixed response from across the community. Business and industry say it will give confidence to invest in the economy, but unions warn the planned efficiency dividend is code for job cuts and pay freezes, while Labor wants answers on debt levels.
Touted as an investment in Tasmania, the government wanted its labour of love to gain acceptance. The opposition, however, has given it the cold shoulder, lashing rising debt levels and accusing the Liberals of trashing their predecessors' work.
We're getting up to debt levels the state has never ever seen, screaming past all the budget restraint that Peter Gutwein showed.
Businesses showing more warmth. The TCCA pleased taxes remain low, just days after Victoria slugged its businesses. However, they say it missed investment in skills and training.
We need a strong economy to help all. It's not a bad budget, it's a good budget. We'd like to have seen more, but again, we feel like it's kind of halfway there.
The efficiency dividend a hot topic. Unions angry about the move and the potential impact on staff.
Blunt, lazy tools of government when they don't know how to fund their services properly.
Instead of actually investing in our public services when we have increasing demand, what we are now going to do is cut the public sector.
While business says it doesn't come quick enough.
I think the efficiency dividend should happen straight away. I don't understand why the government would delay that until 2024.
Master builders happy funding for the controversial Mac Point Stadium, and $30 million to open up more land for housing was included.
Hopefully allow more land, cheaper, affordable lots onto market sooner. You can't build affordable housing without having affordable land to build on.
Health and education sector members welcoming some of the investment, but they warn the devil is in the detail.
It doesn't quite cut it in terms of doctors' support of salaries and wages. We're in a competitive world at the moment.
How are we going to make sure we have teachers in front of the classroom? We already know now that schools are struggling. Let's make sure we've actually got short and long-term plans to fix this.
Mental health advocates please services, including funding towards eating disorders, were included.
We've seen an increasing demand since COVID for that area, so really great to see that investment as well.
Cost of living, another key selling point of this budget, as inflation continues to bite our most vulnerable. Social service providers say any support for energy prices is good news.
$250 each year for 2 years for eligible Tasmanians will be very welcome.
But warn there's more to be done, including for delivery groups.
The result of this is we'll be winding back services and turning people away.
John Hunt, 7 Tasmania News.
And as the world mourns the music icon, Tasmanians have also paid tribute, many taking to social media, reminiscing about the star's performances here, which drew crowds of thousands.
Star power causing quite the stir at Launceston Airport.
Hoping to catch a glimpse of Tina Turner in the flesh.
News crews, along with hundreds of fans, were on hand to capture every moment as Tina Turner made her way off the tarmac. The superstar played the first show of her 1997 Australian tour at the Silverdome, taking over the venue for days to rehearse. Tina's Tasmanian love affair lasted 2 decades. She built a legion of fans on the Apple Isle on a 1976 visit with then-husband Ike. Nick Ware was front row at the York Park performance.
It was a pretty exciting day. It was one of the first big concerts in Tasmania, an outdoor concert.
He thinks he might have the only surviving photo of Tina and the Ikettes from the show.
I did have another one of Tina herself and a few others, but lost those over the years. But I think the excitement of the day was a bit too much to be taking photographs.
The performance attracting thousands, all keen to get up close to the big-name stars.
It's one of those memories that stays with you. It's like the Dire Straits concert. If you were there, you remember it, and you remember the sound, and you remember the excitement.
A legendary legacy from one of music's greats. Annie Green, 7 Tasmania News.
Doctors at the state's biggest hospital have walked off the job as wage negotiations with the government heat up. Battling for better conditions, they say they're in the midst of a workforce crisis and morale has never been so low.
Off the ward and out in protest, the fury was palpable as doctors converged on the steps of the Royal Hobart Hospital.
Equal care, equal pay.
The cohort is calling on the state government to come to the table with a pay deal that competes with other states.
I've seen it go from an organisation that is adequately staffed and is able to deliver the care that our patients expect of us to an organisation that's now locum dependent and is looking down the barrel of having a junior doctor workforce crisis.
For those less than 2 years into their career, chronic understaffing is taking a toll.
We're battling constantly every day, working overtime on a daily basis to cover the care for the patients that they really need.
Leading physicians say retaining and attracting doctors has never been harder.
People don't want to come back here because we cannot fund them. the way they're already being funded on the mainland.
The Department of Premier and Cabinet says it's disappointing industrial action has taken place and they are encouraged to reconsider so negotiations are not delayed and doctors can receive salary increases when they are due in July. It's estimated more than $50 million is spent every year on locum doctors in Tasmania, with the temporary staff now making up a large percentage of the entire workforce.
Many patients don't see the same psychiatrist every time they visit their clinic, and this has real implications for the management of people with chronic conditions.
Without change, these critical workers fear for the future. Grace Evans, 7 Tasmania News.
An investigation into a fatal crash which claimed the lives of an elderly couple in Bridgenorth in 2020 has found inattention was likely to blame. Mary and David Bell died when their sedan collided with a ute at an intersection on Bridgenorth Road. A coroner's report says Mr Bell had failed to observe give-way signs in the lead-up to the collision, adding that momentary lapses in concentration or inattentiveness behind the wheel can have tragic consequences. The West Tamar Council plans to upgrade the intersection, which has seen 5 fatal crashes since 2010. Collingwood is officially pulling out of the national netball competition in a major blow for Australia's most popular female sport.
We just want to make sure that, first and foremost, that all the players and staff at Collingwood get the necessary support that they need, but obviously we are disappointed that Collingwood has chosen not to continue in our competition.
New CEO Craig Kelly admits the club could have run its netball program better. Tasmanian taxpayers won't be out of pocket. Our multi-million-dollar deal was contingent on the side fronting up to games in the state. Organisers of the Launceston Cup are optimistic it will still receive funding after being snubbed for sponsorship by the City Council. The Tasmanian Turf Club usually receives $20,000 a year to help run the event.
The Ladbrokes Launceston Cup is the jewel in our crown, and we really need that day to work for the club to work for the rest of the year.
Another round of funding is expected to be announced later this year. Festivali has secured $60,000 a year for the next 3 years. Thyroid disorders are often a silent battle impacting millions of Australians, and today their struggle is in the spotlight for World Thyroid Awareness Day. For one Tasmanian mum, a diagnosis changed her life and needed her to take drastic and potentially life-saving action.
After years of unanswered weight gain and fatigue, Andrea McKelvey knew something wasn't right.
I was weighing more and more every day. I was diagnosed with thyroid and underactive thyroid.
Faced with the prospect of a different surgery, she was determined to do anything she could to avoid going under the knife twice.
I thought no one was enough. I'd rather have the satisfaction of saying, look, I've lost the weight myself.
Told she needed to lose 30 kilos to be ready, Andrea embarked on the major weight loss regime, eventually dropping 42 kilos in less than a year, taking on a new lease on life.
Being able to go into the shop and buy clothes off the rack and things like that's just changed things a lot.
Andrea isn't alone, with other Tasmanians forging ahead with their own battles. Their advice is to up the exercise and take charge of your own health journey.
It can be a hindrance, but you can live a normal life. Take it easy and listen to your body.
Those who have experienced the worst of it hope others can avoid the same fate.
Usually about 60,000 diagnosed a year, and there's well over 1 million Australians that are living with an undiagnosed thyroid disorder.
Victoria Easto, 7 Tasmania News.
Taking inspiration from the AFL's Sir Doug Nicholls round, 2 grassroots footy teams have dreamed up their own Indigenous Guernseys for a special contest. The NTFA's annual Aboriginal round will see Rocherley and Bracknell wear designs drawn from the land.
From the green fields of Bracknell comes a red and white feature, a Guernsey designed in the outline of the rural town.
Pretty exciting. No, it's a big game on the NTFA calendar.
In fact, it's one of the biggest, routinely drawing 2,000 spectators to Rocherley Oval.
Besides playing finals football, it's
one of our best days of the year.
Rochelee's Guernsey is inspired by the sources of life, a meaning which is conveyed to players in the rooms pre-game.
I've played in probably 5 or 6 of them. It's always good to have a look at them and see the different Guernseys over the past few years.
As for the match itself, it should be a belter. Rochelee second and has won its last 3, Bracknell's third and is on a 4-game winning streak. Players will also take part in the long walk from Brooks High School to the ground at 10:30, something Indigenous great Michael Long was a part of last year. While North Launceston and East Launceston will feature their own Guernsey designs in junior games being played as curtain raisers to the seniors.
It actually looks into our club and our story, and that's how our Guernseys came out with this design.
A nod to the nation's heritage. Tom Johnson, 7 Tasmania News.
Let's return to our major local story of the day. And the state budget has been delivered, the second for Michael Ferguson, and the Treasurer joins us now. Good evening, Treasurer. Now, you're doubling the state's debt bill, promising to pay it back through sensible economic management. Are you comfortable with that, given global economic uncertainty?
Good evening, Kim. Yes, we've made decisions in a very careful and considered way. When we bring down a state budget, we're spending Tasmanian taxpayers' money, and we need to do so really carefully. We've charted a course through some stormy seas, if I can use that metaphor, with inflation and cost of living pressures, mortgage interest rates going up, and of course the big cut to our GST. So managing through that, still finding a pathway to surplus and very manageable debt levels. We found the budget that suits the times, and it will protect our economy. And as you said earlier, record investment into health and education, 2 areas that the Premier and I are particularly passionate about.
Okay, so can you promise you won't backflip on no new taxes?
Well, we've been very clear. We've now brought down 2 budgets where people have claimed that we'd be bringing in new taxes. Not doing that. We're not like Victoria, whose budget response is significantly increased debt and big cuts to public servants and services, together with new taxes on business. We're not doing that because that would damage what's been so successful for our state. We're Australia's best performing economy. We want to keep it that way because that's what's led us to be able to have 56,000 more people in work in Tasmania and the lowest unemployment rate. So we need to protect what's precious about our economy.
Speaking of work, we've heard a lot today the word efficiency. Will you guarantee the efficiency dividend won't result in poorer public services or job losses?
We need to introduce this very modest efficiency dividend, and I've been very clear today that we can do this. It's a much smaller, more modest efficiency dividend than has previously been applied in 2019, and much, much smaller than the 2011 efficiency dividend. We're protecting public services. In fact, if you look at our budget papers, you'll see the expenditure on health and education, those vital frontline services being protected, and at the same time, Kim, government can be more efficient, and we should be spending other people's money, their hard-earned taxpayers' money. And along the way, of course, we're bringing in significant additional cost of living relief for people with their electricity bills, their council rates, their water and sewerage bills, those areas where the state government can play a role. We're providing a big extra support, and we believe this is what our community needs.
Okay, Treasurer, thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thanks, Kim. Good night.
Well, let's turn to something much lighter now. And a record number of stall holders have signed up to tantalise taste buds at this year's Dark Mofo Winter Feast. 90 food and drink vendors will showcase a diverse range of Tasmanian treats during the 8-day event, which has become a festival favourite. Now, in its 10th year, the Winter Feast will also feature a nightly program of music and roaming performers. The feasting begins on June 8. Public and private cancer patients in Tasmania will now have greater access to support services in the state's capital. The Cancer Council has joined forces with the Icon Centre to expand the offering in Hobart. A number of holistic programs will be available to help the journey from diagnosis through to treatment.
We provide practical services as well, so trying to mitigate the financial impact of cancer. We have a wig library, so people experiencing hair loss as a result of their cancer treatment can access a wig with us. All our services are free.
Operations will run 3 days a week out of the site to cater for growing demand.
The ladder leaders are gearing up for a top-of-the-table clash in the TSL this weekend. Kingborough will travel north to face off against the Bombers at UTAS Stadium, and the Tigers coach says they're ready for the challenge.
It is two
two sort of potent forward lines, but two potent midfields and rucks as well. So it should be a really good challenge for us, which we're looking forward to.
Meantime, North Hobart is hoping to reign supreme in its home territory against the Blues as they look to overcome injury.
We've got to make some changes this week, and we'll train tonight and finalise our team and front up again against Launceston on Saturday.
And in the final match, Lauderdale will be chasing an important win against Glenorchy to scale back up the leaderboard. Launceston's Tom Bellchambers has proven his right hand is as lethal as his right boot. The former Essendon and St Pat's player knocked out fellow footballer Cam Mooney in an all-AFL boxing bout to bring his professional record to 1-0.
He actually caught me with a couple of good ones just before I got him there, but yeah, that was amazing, mate. That was everything I thought it was going to be and more.
The 33-year-old Bellchambers played 136 games for the Dons. And despite clearing the boundary for 6, Nathan Ellis has been part of Hampshire's lowest ever T20 score, all out for 74. They lost to Somerset by 8 wickets in less than 10 overs. And fellow Hurricane Ben McDermott managed just 3 with the bat for the side. So not a good way out, and that's all for sport, Kim.
Good evening. Hobart 15 today. Launceston and Devonport a cool one, 13 degrees. Burnie reached 14. Flinders Island and Friendly Beach is our high, 17 degrees. St Helens and Bushy Park 16. King Island, Smithton and Grove 15. And Strawn a top of 14. Not much cloud over the east today as low-level cloud brought the showers elsewhere. Warra 15 millimetres today. The southeast of the continent has mid to high-level cloud. Some low cloud over coastal South Australia and WA. Tomorrow a high centred over the west extends over the mainland. A cold front off the New South Wales coast, a trough attached heading into Queensland. Winds west to southwesterly, 20 to 30 knots, a bit stronger over the south with swells to 5 metres. Gale warning for waters from Tasman Island to Low Rocky Point, a strong wind warning for all remaining coastal waters. We have a minor flood warning that's been issued for the North Esk River, a warning to sheep graziers mainly over the southeast, and a bushwalkers alert for snow to 700 metres in the western and central plateau areas. Hobart tomorrow a top of 14 with a shower or 2, 13 for Huonville, possible shower for Campania. Launceston a top of 14 and partly cloudy, same conditions for Devonport and Georgetown. Burnie a high of 13 degrees with a shower or 2, showers and 13 for Strawn and Wynyard. And in the east tomorrow, all expecting 14 degrees, St Helens mostly sunny, partly cloudy for Swansea, a shower for Port Arthur. On the weekend, Saturday mainly fine over the east with a few showers elsewhere. Showers on Sunday more isolated over the east and southeast, and for the last Monday of autumn, showers again with winds turning southwesterly. Sunny for Perth tomorrow. Showers though over Adelaide, Melbourne, Canberra and Sydney. Sunny but windy weather for Brisbane.